and then we'll download it. It'll be fine.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Don't know that anybody heard me.
I did.
I did. Good morning,
You
Denise.
did. I can't hear you.
Where's the audio at?
The audio, the volume is up, but is
Okay.
it?
Turn up the volume
What I'm
on your
saying is,
computer.
where's your audio?
Yeah.
I can't see.
Do you want my glasses?
No, I can't see because
Oh.
it's angled weird. Try it now. Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can hear you even better.
Good.
So Margaret's doing tech support today.
Hi guys, it's wonderful to see you.
You too, everybody.
Mary, we miss you.
I know. I never get down to Bloomington.
So how does the screens look, guys? Is everything looking okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna switch it so that you can see the other cameras, and we want to see what that looks like if you don't mind.
Alternate.
Oh,
There's
Right.
one.
okay.
That one looks okay. And then what if we
Well,
do it?
Okay,
We can see the machine.
Alt N.
That was what Aaron said to get to the other
Cameras.
on Monday.
Okay, but it doesn't show on her screen. She can't see what's going on because it's a little tiny picture.
Oh, let's go do this change
View.
here.
View.
Well, what I was,
What are you talking about, David?
maybe.
Well, I think that camera that you showed me earlier,
Is
Dave.
good.
Yeah.
So this isn't down here. This isn't
maybe.
it. So
That's it. Click on it again. So it's
what do you mean,
shooting.
click on it again, Dave.
When you did that there, so then we can, third camera.
So, but I can't tell what they can see. Are you guys seeing the front of the 990?
Not
No,
now.
all I can see is Margaret Fetty, the
Okay.
name.
Good to know.
All right, so see, I think when you did that Alt N thing, I'm wondering here, up here. Right. Can you see, what do you see again, guys? Hello?
On the screen, Margaret Fetty.
Okay,
I see Alice and myself.
Yeah.
Two people.
so something is not, we should be, Zoom should be showing whatever is on your screen. Oh, well, your video's off.
Well, it was on.
Integrated webcam. What's that? What is going on? Why does it say no video?
Oh, there, we had something.
Oh, this is video. That's recorded.
There.
Good.
You guys can see it now?
We can see the screen of the 990.
Yes.
Super. Okay, so that was what we needed to do. And then when you want to change that, all you have to do,
Click on the camera at the bottom.
let's see. Are you guys seeing by chance the needle area? No, probably not. Are you? Are you seeing the needle area?
Just the screen. Bernina, sewing embroidery screen.
It didn't change it. What about that camera up?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not doing that. So okay, maybe now it'll work. Okay.
Good. Oh, back.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to switch it between the three. Did you see what's going on
How did you do
now?
that?
The Alt N now.
Okay.
But see, because that wasn't on, it wasn't working the way
Gotcha.
you thought it would.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
So, there we go. I think that's fixing it. So,
Beautiful.
All right, so now when you are ready to record, or is it
I
recording
had it
now?
recording. now.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so we'll have to cut it out. So, okay, all right. Okay, so you
We're good to
guys
go.
should be, I think, good to go.
Yay.
And they
awesome.
see you now.
And we have more friends joining us. That's always fun. Good morning, everyone.
So when you guys are watching, hello, Alice.
Right.
So when you guys are watching, because right now we're getting you as the primary. Are you on the big screen? Are you seeing us? Or are you seeing you?
You're seeing 4 people.
Right. Really odd that what we're seeing is you guys, not our screen. And that's why I was trying to figure out what's going on specifically on that.
Is that a view issue?
Well, it says right now it should be the speaker. I'm wondering if you want to just take it and change it to just the presenter. Hide self-view, hide non-video participants. Full screen, what does that mean? There.
That works.
Okay, all right. That works somehow. I don't even know what I just did, but it works.
We just hope we don't have to repeat it, whatever it was. So, yeah, very cool.
So, well, I
Awesome.
just went over, made the view over here and double clicked on it. So that's all I did.
Okay, all right. Well, it'll be a fun adventure today, guys.
And then Alt N until you get to the screen you want it to.
Perfect. That's exactly what we need, Margaret.
Okay,
Woo-hoo.
hopefully. Oh my God, technology.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Eyeballs crossed.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yay.
Yeah, you phrase it however you want to do it.
Thank you,
today, so-
Jay. Thank you, Jay. Good morning, everyone, again. I think we have our technical issues mostly squared away. If not, it'll just add to the adventure, right, Margaret? We like a challenge. Keep saying that. We like a challenge. We like a challenge.
Just remember, you're plugged in all kinds of areas. We don't have a lot of give.
I can't wiggle. Margaret's making me stay in my box today, literally in my box. So that's okay. All right. So we'll give a few more minutes to anybody else that might be joining us. I have all of my tools and toys out to play with and to talk to you all. Of course, machine quilting is one of my favorite things to chat about. So I promise I will try to keep it to an hour, but if I start seeing people nod off, I'll know to wrap it up. How's that?
Very sure.
There's Gail popping in to join us. I would like to be able to see everybody if I can. That might work. Well, I don't know where everybody is. I think we are spread out about today. The sun is shining here beautifully this morning. It was a little chillier than I anticipated, so I did have to grab my jacket, but I'll take that for the sunshine. Alice, how is your weather?
Good.
Oh, there.
Oh, which Alice are you talking to?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I forget. I mean, I think of you guys, yeah. Yes, I was thinking of our Alice who is in Texas at the moment, correct?
Correct. Yes, I am in Jonathan's lair here. At his computer station.
Very, very cool. And let's see, I think everybody else is fairly local-ish, right here in Indiana somewhere. I don't see anybody else traveling and out and about. And I guess maybe for most of us, it's a little early for those summer adventures, but we should be planning, thinking about them. So, all righty, friends, I have 10:30, so let's go ahead and get started. You should have received the PDF with some notes about what we're going to talk about today. Today is all about the Venus stitch regulator, specifically the new and improved integrated stitch regulator in the Bernina 990 that we are all learning to know and fall in love with every time we use it. I know I do, and I suspect you guys are doing the same thing. So, who's played with their stitch regulator? Either the old one or the new one? Anybody?
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
have.
Cool. So there's nobody that this concept of stitch regulation is a new idea. You've never heard of this, or this is probably not. There may be a couple people that watch the video later that it's a completely foreign concept. So let's talk a little bit about what it is. Stitch regulation is a way of manipulating your machine quilting. The whole idea is that as you are moving your quilt, whether you're doing it on a domestic machine, a sit-down long arm, or if you've got a long arm on a frame and you're moving the machine, the idea is to keep those stitches a consistent length. Is it exact every time? No, because it's a human operating the machine, right? So that there is a little wiggle room. So perfection 100% of the time is not going to happen, but we're going to get darn close with this stitch regulator. Bernina came out with the what's affectionately known as the Bernina stitch regulator many years ago. And I love to tell this story because I think it's beautiful. There was a lovely quilter in Minnesota or Wisconsin, lady who'd been stitching for years, doing her machine quilting. And she casually mentions to her husband, who happens to be an engineer, I wish there was a way that my stitches would be more consistent. And those of us that know and love engineers understand that he went, I accept that challenge. And he came up with the Bernina stitch regulator. His name is Ralph. Thank you, Ralph. We love you, Ralph. Ralph and his wife then went to the Houston Quilt Show with this little gadget in their hand and said, we've created this. Do you think you could use it? Bernina, of course, very wisely snatched it up, and that is what we are stitching with today. So I love the idea that Ralph and his wife are somewhere on a tropical island with their feet up and a drink with a little umbrella in their hand, enjoying retirement with hopefully the money they made off the Bernina stitch regulator, selling it to Bernina. So thank you again to Ralph. We appreciate you. Did you know, were you aware, I know that Mary is, Mary Miller, that the Bernina stitch regulator that has been with our domestic machines for a long time is the very same unit that's in our long arms, our Bernina long arms. The only difference, the Bernina long arms actually have two of them built in. So double the pleasure, double the fun. What was that commercial way back when? Anybody else remember that one?
Supplement gum.
Double mint gum, yes, yes. I'm thinking double bubble, but that was not the same one.
No.
So how does this little gadget work? There's Brenda. Good morning, Brenda. The Bernina stitch regulator takes images as you're moving your fabric, and we're going to talk specifically about on the 990. So of course, we're moving the fabric here. We're moving the quilt sandwich. It takes these images at approximately 4,000 images a minute. My mind just explodes every time I say that number because I can't wrap my head around that, but that's how it works. Again, on the long arms, you've got that happening twice, which is really, really kind of cool. Your 990 machine obviously has a built-in stitch regulator. What a brilliant idea. It did also come with an external stitch regulator. And I've had conversations with people here in the shop about, well, if it's built in, why do I have this other one? And somebody said maybe they didn't, maybe Bernina wasn't convinced this would work. Well, no, I feel confident in saying that's not why Bernina did that. If Bernina wasn't convinced it would work, they wouldn't have sold it to you. They are very slow in developing things because they're very purposeful in developing things. The original stitch regulator that you would attach to your machine externally, you would use it with your single hole stitch plate. Even on your long arms, you typically stitch with a single hole stitch plate. It gives that fabric just a little extra support as that needle's going up and down. The built-in stitch regulator, if you guys have noticed, have looked, the one that activates the integrated stitch regulator is not a single hole stitch plate. I'm going to see if I can switch this. It's actually a 5mm stitch plate. See if I can get that up where you can see it and not my hand. There we go. That's a little better. So the pink and blue square up at the top indicates it's the integrated stitch plate. You see here, we've got the 5mm, oh, here you see my hand, the 5mm hole. You've got the little hole in the middle there, and then this little hole, oh, guys, I promise I'll get better at this. The hole on the bottom here is for the images, the little camera that takes all those images. If you look on the back, there's this little gadget here. That's part of what tells the machine which stitch plate you have on and to activate integrated stitch regulator. So with the old one, again, single stitch hole plate, which was fine. We have one that's built in, but we do have the 5.5mm hole for the stitching. Does it make any difference? Those of us that have quilted for a long time, we're just kind of used to the single hole stitch plate, so that's what we use. We've had good success with it, right? I did a little testing of my own. I compared the two. I couldn't see any difference in the stitches. I didn't know they were any less consistent in size. I didn't notice that they, maybe veered off from being a beautiful straight stitch that we know Bernina for. I couldn't tell a difference. And I would challenge you, if I showed you my two samples of that, if you looked at them up close and personal, my guess is you probably wouldn't know the difference either. So my challenge to you again is for you to try both and see what you think. Do your own little test. Use your same quilt sandwich, your same needle, your same thread. Make the only variable the external stitch regulator compared to the internal one. When you put the external one on, for those of you that haven't used it before, you do plug it into the back. And if the screen doesn't pop up with the stitch regulator screen, then it's probably not plugged in all the way. You have to give it a little push in the back, but it should come on. Another note on using the external one. If for some reason you started out using the integrated stitch regulator and then switched to the other one, I don't know why you would, but you might. Just know that the external one will override the integrated one. So keep that in mind. The old one comes with some feet that attach to it. And as much as we love the old one, it had some limitations. So that was part of why Bernina went and developed a way to build it in and help to eliminate some of those limitations. Quilters and Bernina quilters, I think in particular, we're a little bit, we're particular for one thing, but we like to have options. We want to be able to do it the way we want to be able to do it. And sometimes the machine may not permit us to do that, or maybe the pattern won't let us do it. Having that integrated stitch regulator helps to eliminate some of those. So let's just review what comes on the external one. This is what the external one looks like. I'll just lay that there. It comes with 3 soles. There is one attached to this one that you can see, and it's got the closed toe on it. Try to get my hand out of the way. There is also an open toe. That's better. And then you've got this one, which was always my favorite. It's a little bit of a cup. It's a clear acrylic cup. And you can see those rings on the inside of it. They were designed to help you with some echo quilting to keep your distance in those echo lines consistent. Your stitches are going to be beautiful, so let's get them lined up beautifully as well. So with the external stitch regulator, you had these 3 feet. There was a way to do ruler work, but it was a little cumbersome. You either had to buy the Sew Steady extension table that was set up for that. It's a really nice thing, but if you have your machine in a cabinet, you're probably not going to want an extra extension table. The other option was to buy another sole that goes on the external stitch regulator. It works beautifully. There's nothing wrong with it. It is made by a third party, so it's not a Bernina accessory. So that made people a little nervous. I will say I've used it. There's no issues with it. But we have the integrated stitch regulator. We have a variety of 11 or 12 different feet that we can use, including ruler work. Let's see. Guys, I'm throwing a lot at you right away. Any questions so far?
I have a question. This is Maxine.
Good morning, ma'am.
If you're using the external one, you use the single hole plate or do you use the 5mm?
You could use each one for the
Okay.
extra BSR.
Okay,
Most people typically just go for the straight stitch because that's kind of been our habit as quilters. And again, because it supports that quilt a little bit more underneath. You could test that one as well and see if there's a difference. See if you notice a difference. Like I said, I didn't notice any difference in the internal one switching between the two stitch plates.
and I have another question kind of regarding the stitch plates. On the 5mm, can you use that when you're doing smaller 5mm type stitching on fine fabrics, or does it need to be used only with the integrated BSR?
That's a really good question, and I don't have the answer, but we can figure that out as we go along today. The 5.5mm certainly would be great for, finer fabrics. Alice, maybe you have a thought on that with regard to the fabric selection. Alice Lorenz.
No,
Okay. We'll play
it's
with
going to be
that.
an individual thing.
Sure, of course. And I am a big proponent of test it. I say, test your quilt blocks, see if you like those fabrics together, see if you like the way the directions were for that, test your stitching, test your embroidery designs, test your decorative stitches. I think it's really, really worth the effort, the time and the effort to do that. I think you will be much happier in the long run with any of your projects with just a few minutes of what happens if I do this? Make sense?
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, ladies, let's go to our screen on our machine. Let's get this up here. There we go. So I'm going to go back to our home screen. I'm sure that looks familiar to you all. We'll go to, look at that. There's a stitch regulator button right there. How convenient. They knew we were coming. It tells us to attach the stitch plate. So my guess, and I haven't tested this, Maxine, but my guess is if you want to use, if you're going to use the integrated stitch regulator, you do have to use the 5.5mm. So if you want to use the single hole plate, you're going to have to switch to the external.
Right, but my question was regarding just regular sewing without the BISR. If you can use the 5mm. I was afraid to try it. I didn't want the machine to go bluey.
Well, I think it will work just fine. I'm going to pop mine on and let's just see what it says. I haven't tried sewing with it, but I don't know why you couldn't. You do have to give them a little muscle though to get them in there. There we go. Now I have mine in. It knows that I have the 5mm in. You can see here, and it's popped up regular stitching. So I think you would be good to go, Maxine, if I'm understanding your.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I'm going to go back to our home screen here. We'll go back to our stitch regulator. Again, it's popping up all of this that we're used to here on the side. But now the screen is a little different. So let's talk about what's on this screen. At the very top, you see it's got the BISR to indicate that's what we're playing in today. and you've got 2 stitch options here. Straight stitch is what you're going to use probably 98.9% of the time. That's just typically how we do our machine quilting, right? There is a zigzag option. Please play with your zigzag. We're going to do that today if you're going to stitch along with us today. But the zigzag is so much fun and it's a little bit of a surprise. I think it may open up some ideas for you. And I love it when I see a pattern or a tool or a notion or something that I go, ooh, I could really have fun with that. I think the zigzag might be one of those for you that maybe you didn't anticipate. Straight stitch, let's go back there. We've got some options in the straight stitch. We've got the 3 different modes that we can play with, and we'll talk about those. You've got stitches per inch. The default is 12, which is a pretty standard default. You can absolutely manipulate that any way you want. And remember, in our Bernina machines, anything that is indicated in yellow means it is changed from the standard default. If you play with that and you think, oh, nuts, I don't like that. What was that starting point? I didn't make a note. If you touch it, it goes back to the default. My brain appreciates that very much. When we are also in the straight stitch and BSR 1, you can adjust revolutions per minute, which is basically how fast the machine is going. Now, I will say when we are in BSR 2, you'll notice that goes away. That option goes away. For me personally, playing in BSR 2, which is my favorite to play with, I think I know that I like that I don't have to adjust the speed on the machine because it just seems to work beautifully as is. So I don't need to tweak anything there. Let's go back to BSR 1. So we've got our stitches, our revolutions per minute here at the bottom, and then we've got the kickstart. Our Bernina long arms that are on a table, they have the kickstart option. When I am teaching the BSR class here in the shop or even ruler work here in the shop, I try to get this to use the go button on their machine because as we're quilting, it is so much, let's switch here for a minute, it is so much patting your head and rubbing your tummy, right? But if we can take one of those away and you can just focus on the patting your head or rubbing your tummy, whichever you prefer, it's a little more enjoyable. You can relax a little bit. It's one less thing to worry about. When you're using the go button on your other machines, it takes the foot control issue away. So you don't have to worry about what your foot is doing, how fast you're going. We can use the kickstart, which will work the same way as the go button on our 990. Again, it's the same thing that works on our Bernina long arms that are set up on a sit down situation on a table. So if we go back here, oops, one more. Come on, focus up, little machine. It wakes up more slowly than I do, I think. Come on. Is that in focus for you guys?
No.
Oh, that's weird. Hello, I'm going to cycle that through again and let's see if that'll help it along. That looks pretty good. There we go. Okay, I think I just confused it for a minute. So the kickstart function, friends. Push the kickstart. Your Bernina foot controller, you know that you can program them by tapping the lower end of the foot controller. For the kickstart on using the integrated stitch regulator, when this screen is up, you hit the lower end, the heel part of your foot controller, and your machine is going to start stitching. I'll tell you a secret, and I figured it out by doing it a couple times and starting to pull my hair out. If you X out of this screen, it goes back to whatever you had the foot controller set up for. Whether that's your knotting function or your needle up down or whatever it is. Touch kickstart, tap your foot controller, and then it will pull up the BSR screen. But again, if you X out of it and can't figure out why your machine isn't running, that's probably why. Easy fix, but yeah, it took me a minute to figure that one out. Okay, so let's go into Want to do some stitching? Anybody want to play along and do some sewing today? Just for fun? Let's jump in. My sandwich. Actually, before we do that, I want to back up. I do want to back up and talk about those feet that we can use with the integrated stitch regulator, because that really is such a treat, because we didn't have that option doing it the old way, right? So there are, I think, 11 feet that we can play with, and I have them all to show you. The first two are embroidery feet, but they will work just as well. So let's see. 9 and the 15. Anybody have these and play with these? I'm sure
Mhm.
Alice does. I bet Mary does. I bet both Alice's do, actually.
What is,
No?
what is 9?
What is 9? Let me pop it out and I'll show you, Mary.
No, what is it called? What is it called? The title?
It just says embroidery foot. That's all it is. So it is kind of it's not an open toe. It's kind of a neat looking foot, actually,
Mhm.
in that shape. So it's a big open area designed for embroidery, but of course it would work beautifully for quilting. Because it's so long, it's going to help to hold things down a little bit in place, which is kind of nice, but you're still going to be able to see your stitches, which is huge, right? Okay, so did you have a question, Mary?
Thank you. Thank you for showing that.
Welcome. You're welcome. We also have to put my glasses on because they print these so tiny. My goodness. Freehand embroidery foot or the embroidery foot. 24 is the freehand. And then 26, this is actually the 26L, and I'm going to pop this one out. It just said it's labeled embroidery foot, so it's very similar to the 26 that we all know and love. This is the 26L, which is the latest edition. Let's see if I can get this where you can see it a little better. Keep going the wrong way. It's hard to tell. Let me try the other so you can see it. What I want you to notice is the shape of it a little bit. That's not working. No, maybe a little bit there. The L stands for laser. So this one is set up so that you can actually see and use your laser that's built into your machine. I haven't played with it yet, but I think if I were going to, this is the one that I would want, because if I have that laser, then I would really like to use it. What are your thoughts on the laser, ladies? I know some of you have had it on the 7 series before, so it's not a new thing, but
This comes with the machine.
yes. Oh, the 26L?
Yep.
Okay, good, because I couldn't find mine, so I was beginning to wonder. That makes sense, because I was going to be annoyed if I have a few others to share with you. The 44C is the Echo Quilting and Cutwork foot. And I really do like this one for Echo Quilting. You'll notice it's got that spring on the shaft of it. That helps it to go over those bulky quilt seams sometimes, or applique things that might be a little thicker. We've also got the 43, which is a free motion couching foot. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. I have tried couching. I'm really, really bad at it. Anybody else played with that? Rachel here in the shop is really good at it. A little bit, Alice. Yeah, I love the idea, but I'm just really bad. And then, oh, the 29C. It's just labeled quilting foot. I feel like they need to come up with better names, don't you think? This one is kind of cool. It's similar to that oblong shaped embroidery, but let's see. There you go. It's clear acrylic, so you can see not only in the hole where it's stitching, but a little bit around it also and underneath it. Again, more options are good, right? And this one also has the spring to adjust. Now, these do not have a dial on them to adjust. Some of them do. If you find that your foot is too high or too low over your quilt sandwich, you can adjust that in the foot pressure. I would play with that. I would practice with that and see, you know, at what pressure setting. Let me go back to the screen. I can show you what I'm talking about in case that might be new for anybody. This little button here. The standard default is 50, but I can adjust the pressure that my presser foot has on my project. And it's not focused again. But I think you guys get the idea. And like I said, play with that to determine at which point seems to be most successful for what you're working on. And again, if you decide to go back to standard, just hit that little yellow button and you'll go back. We do have a collection of feet for ruler work. And again, ruler work was something that you could do with the old stitch regulator, but it was a little cumbersome. This makes it so much easier because you just put the right foot on. This one is the 72, and you see it has that spring on it, but you can also see that brass looking dial in the middle. You just turn that dial and it will adjust the foot up or down. So again, it gives you more options with this foot. The 72 was the follow-on to the 96, which was the original ruler work foot, and it would work just as well. But then Bernina said, what about a 72S? And the S very simply stands for slit in the foot. It makes it a little easier to thread. If getting your thread through the whole foot is a challenge for you, then definitely consider the S. If that's not something that's a problem, I like the 72. And part of why I like the 72 is depending on which direction you're stitching, sometimes that thread will come out of that slit. And so you just have to slide it back in. It's not a big deal. It's just something to notice, to pay attention to. What was the other one now? 73 is another one we can use with our integrated stitch regulator. It's an open toe, also with the spring and the adjustable height. These are all great feet. And then the last one I wanted to show you is the 74. This is also one of my favorites. It's an adjustable gliding cup foot. Acrylic, it's a little bit like a bowl. It slides very nicely over bulky seams, over applique, even over the edge of your quilt. So you've got your quilt top a little shorter than your batting and your backing. And sometimes when you're quilting back over the top at that edge, your foot might get hung up on that top where that raw edge is. This will help to prevent that. Now that I've overwhelmed you with feet, any questions? Can I ship one of each out to every one of you? What do you think? Not yet? Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. So now let's do a little bit of stitching. I'm going to put some of my toys out of the way. And just one last word on feet in general. If you do not already have the big book of feet, I highly recommend it. It's really, really useful. Let's go switch my view here. Nope, not that one. Hello. I think the computer gremlins are going to get us today, guys. Did my... Okay, that's a little better. One more. Well, that's interesting. Why is it not doing that? You guys can still hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Yes,
You just can't see me, I'm guessing.
correct.
Aw. Well, does that help? Any better?
No,
Maybe.
there you go.
There we go.
There you go.
Hey, I don't know what I did, but we'll go with it. Okay, so back to our stitch regulator on the screen. We talked about what your options are when you get to that BISR screen. We did not talk about what those settings are, the BISR1, the BISR2, and the BISR3, which is a bit of a bonus. We're going to start a little backwards. We're going to start with number 3, please. So if you touch your number 3, you are now in BISR mode number 3, which is a basting mode. What a brilliant idea. When the stitch regulator first came out, the only option was 1 and 2, so it did not include a basting stitch. Some of the 7 series in the last recent years, they included the basting stitch, and then I think maybe there was an upgrade or something. The long arms have had the basting stitch. So if nothing else, you could baste your quilt doing this before you even think about what you're quilting. You could baste your friends' quilts. You could charge them, you know, say, hey, you take me out to lunch, I'll baste your quilt for you. I think that would be a very good deal personally. The basting stitch is obviously a long stitch. Let's go ahead and do, if you haven't already, do just like a plus sign across your quilt sandwich if you have it handy, and that'll give us 4 quadrants to play in a little bit today. I'm gonna do mine. And of course, I'm sure you guys all know needle up, needle down to bring your bobbin thread up. And stay foot down, needle down, needle up. Come on, machine. Needle up, foot back up. Oh, where is my bobbin thread? I think I cut it too short. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to pull out my bobbin to make sure that I have a nice long-ish bobbin thread. And actually, while I have that bobbin door open, when you open your bobbin door, the sensor for that BISR is right on the very front. I think maybe you can almost see it there. Right here, sort of where my finger is. If you find that your stitches are not consistent or the machine seems to be fighting with you a little bit while you're using the BISR, open your door, take your microfiber cloth and just dust that off a little bit. Any lint that comes in contact with that could be an issue with those images that it uses to give you the beautiful stitches. Not something we really had to think too much about before they built it in. I have to tell you guys too, before I got my 990 and 880, which I loved, very nice machine. It spoiled me a little bit because those of you that have sewn on the 8 series, you know that when you open the bobbin door, it presents the bobbin to you. So I would open the bobbin door with the 990 and sit there and wait, and of course it didn't present it to me. So yeah, it's a little bit of relearning, which is fine. Yeah.
The door.
What was that? I missed it. Everybody good? Making progress? Okay. I'm going to do some kickstart. See, I did it again. Why are we not working? Open door is not closed. That's why it's not working. One more time. And now I'm gonna get out of there, lift up my threads here. I'm just gonna pull this out. Go the other way. Anybody having any issues with their basting stitch? It should be working beautifully for you. Go back to my kickstart. Does anybody use or have you ever used the Supreme sliders on your machine for machine quilting?
Yes, yes.
Yes. You can still use it with this. You'll have to cut out a hole so that your little camera can still do its thing, but it will still work just fine. Okay. See if I can get back to. Oh, come on, computer. Well, we may be stuck looking at the screen that way, but that's okay, because I think that'll work just fine. Basting, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Obviously, when you're doing your quilting, for most of it, you're going to try to do center out, unless you have done some really good prep work before. For anybody who's watching later that maybe is entirely new machine quilting, when you start from the center out, then any of that movement of the fabric goes to the edge, as opposed to from the outside in, where you could create puckers, which of course is no fun. Okay, so let's pick a corner and let's go do BISR number 1. It's not going to let me share my screen, but BISR number 1. What do you need to know about that? It starts at 12 stitches per inch, which again is sort of a standard size. If you are doing small motifs, if you're doing little itty bitty micro stippling, shrink that number down. The more detail, the more minute you're working, make your stitches smaller. It will look much more, it'll flow better. It won't be quite so jagged in the stitches. You'll have prettier curves, if that makes sense. You can change those revolutions per minute. I would say for now, just leave it where it is and see what you think. The BISR number 1, the most important thing to know about that is when you stop moving the fabric, because that's what tells the machine to stitch, the machine's going to keep going. The needle will continue to go up and down even though you have stopped moving the fabric. The biggest difference is that in BISR number 2, when you stop moving, so does the machine. So it stops when you do, which is how I remember it. So number 1, you're moving your fabric around, you're stitching away, doing your meandering or your beautiful feathers. When you stop, that needle will continue to move. Why would you want to do that? There's got to be a reason, right? If you are doing things that have sharp points to them, squares, rectangles, beautiful stars that have sharp points, when you hesitate for just that half a second that you're not moving your sandwich, you get 1 or 2 more stitches. That makes those points really pretty. If you do that in BSR2, your points might be a little more rounded, and maybe that's the look that you want for that project. Just know the difference between the two. I see Alice has got her thinking face on. Alice Lucchini, do you have a question?
I have a resting thinking face. Yes, yes.
Love a thinking face, any kind of thinking face. Is there a question behind the thinking face?
No, I just don't like BSR1. I always go way out of control with that one.
Yes, and I will say BSR2 is my favorite because I feel
Yes.
like I have more control over it.
Yeah.
But let's play a little bit in one, just do some little meandering. Try that kickstart function, friends. So just some things to think about as you're stitching. Make sure that your body is centered with the needle on your machine. Lots of times we sort of naturally sit in the middle of the machine, but that's not where the needle is. And we need to be where the needle is. It's so much more comfortable. There's no reason to lean and stretch and stand up and feel like you've been beat up after doing some machine quilting. Make sure that you relax, roll your shoulders down and back. When we get tense, our shoulders naturally creep up by our ears, and I'm not sure why that is, but it happens. I always suggest, whatever makes you relaxed. Is that some cool music while you're doing your machine quilting? Is it a glass of wine? What is it? I don't know. But the more relaxed you are, the better, the more satisfied you will be with your stitching, for sure. How's it going, guys?
Okay.
Gail, I can't hear you, Gail. You're still on mute, friend.
Sorry. So tell me again, why would you use the external BSR over the integrated one?
If you really, really were attached to that straight stitch plate.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. That's the only reason.
It's the only reason I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Wonderful. Donna, how's yours going?
It's going good.
Beautiful. Maxine, are you having success? You're still on mute, Maxine.
Sorry. I had to get my
That's okay.
I don't have a computer near my sewing machine, so
Okay.
but I have done it before, and I did use the basting on a wall hanging that was about 3 feet by 5 feet, and it is so much easier than trying to pin the thing or
Heck yeah.
whatever. And the only comment I have on that is if you're doing a pattern, try to do your basting off center or so that it won't be stitching your final stitching over some of the basting. Makes it hard to get those basting stitches out.
That's a really good idea, Maxine. Thank you for sharing that. I love that you were able to take that basting stitch and put it to such good use. It's kind of a game changer for that part of the process. And I have to tell you, I have never met anybody who, when you ask them what is their favorite part of quilting, I've never met anyone who says basting.
Exactly.
It's
And
always the most boring part.
And I actually used it on one wall hanging where I was doing the jumbo stitch and not using the BISR. And it's just a real game changer for me to have that basting stitch.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And to know that you can just sit down and push a few buttons on your machine and get it done. You don't have to find that BSR. Where did I put that box? Oh yeah, I have to attach that. Is that the foot that I want? And it's a game changer in so many ways, but part of the secret in the sauce, I think, is that it's so simple to use, which I love.
And I
Okay.
don't get, maybe it's because of practice more, but I don't get the little bubbles or gaps, whatever, pleats in the backing with the
Beautiful.
basting as much. As
Yay.
with pins, you would think it would be straight through, but it's not for me. Somehow the way I
It's
pin
not.
it.
And I have tried, I think, every possible way to baste things, and there's just always an issue somewhere along the way. unless you're doing it like this, I think. And it could be, I mean, you certainly could create issues for yourself, but I really think if you're thoughtful about, like you said, where you put the stitches and doing it from the center out, I think your odds of success are much higher doing it this way. Shall we move on to number 2, ladies?
Yeah.
BISR number 2. Now, this one, when you stop moving your quilt sandwich around, the needle stops moving on the machine. Great, right? That's wonderful for readjusting your hands. If you are doing ruler work, this is my favorite because you need to adjust that ruler a little bit before you keep going. This one, I think people just feel more natural when they do it. For some reason, in the first mode, it just seems a little more, I don't know, jumpy and starty maybe. I don't know. So let's play a little bit with BISR number 2. If you want to move over to a different spot in your quilt sandwich, go ahead and do that. And then you can kind of compare the stitches too, I think. Has anybody tried ruler work, either on your 990 or on a different machine? Mary Miller, ruler
I haven't-
work?
Not yet. No, not yet.
Okay.
This is Donna. I did, but it was years ago. So
It's time to revisit that, Donna. Time to try again.
absolutely. Well, this is the first time I've used the BISR, so I am enjoying it.
Yay!
Yeah.
Don't forget that kickstart.
Well, the basting, I never knew it could do it. That's a game changer for me.
I love that. So play with some swirly looking things, play with just some straight up and down kind of things. And the idea is you want to keep your hands sort of close to the needle so you have more control over what you're moving. Don't forget to breathe. Inhale, exhale. Alice is breathing, I see. She's smiling. I love that. Mary's smiling.
Yeah, pretty good for the first try today.
Awesome. And I will say, you know, they say practice makes perfect. Well, my goal is never perfect. My goal is better than the last time I did it, right? 10 minutes a day before you sit down to work on whatever you're doing, grab one of those quilt sandwiches that you have ready to go and just meander, just swirl around, just get a feel for it. And I promise you will see a difference.
Well, people are sewing. I have another question. This Maxine again. I saw it in my local shop. They had these large round rings, are for quilting and holding the fabric. Are those primarily for long arm, or can you use those on a domestic? What's the best thing for moving the fabric and holding it steady and taut?
So that's a wonderful question, Maxine, because there are lots of options. Those gripper rings that you're referring to, they work beautifully on the sit-down long arms. They would work very nicely on your domestic machine. I think best if you have it sitting in a cabinet so that you have that nice big flat surface. If you're just using your extension table, I'm afraid they might be big to actually be useful. So I'm not sure how yours is set up. Do you have your machine in a cabinet?
It was, but now with the 990, it has to sit up on top, so I have to use the table.
Okay,
like, to
so
sit up.
sure, sure. And that's the way mine is too, just for reference. The gripper rings are okay. What you might want to try as a couple other options, we can order a So Steady extension table for you, which would be bigger than what we have here on our regular extension table. Mary is showing the Martelli palm paddles. Those are fantastic. They work in a similar way of the gripper rings. I actually like the palm paddles a little better, Maxine. The gripper
Okay.
rings, you're supposed to hold, so they almost have little handles on the top of the rings, and you kind of
Uh-huh.
hold on to those handles and steer around. Well, what if I want to move my hands? What if I'd rather have my hands
There you-
closer over here? Well,
Right.
there they are. Alice has got that. There's the handles.
Yes.
The palm paddles literally fit into the palm of your hand, and then you can move them as close or as far apart as you like. They are smaller, so they might work a little better in this situation. They have the same texture on the bottom of them, so they grip onto your quilt sandwich just as beautifully. But I find for some reason we don't grab them and just really, strangle them. Sometimes when we're quilting, we get so tense that whatever we're hanging on to, we've got a death grip on it. For some reason, the palm paddles, I don't think that happens quite as often. The other option, of course, there are tons of quilting gloves out there. My tip on quilting gloves, get a size smaller than you think you need, because when you move your hands, you want your hands and the gloves to move your quilt sandwich. You don't
Right.
want your hands to move in the gloves and then the gloves to move the quilt sandwich. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You want it
yes.
all to go at one time. If the gloves are too big, your hands are moving in the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever size you think you need, go down a size. And then quilting gloves are great. They drive me a little nutty sometimes when I have to rethread. So I have been known to clip the fingertips off of the thumb and the forefinger, but that's entirely up to you.
Okay.
You have
That's
lots of
why,
options, Maxine.
that's why I use these.
Oh, those are
Because-
nice, Alice.
They're made by Steady Betty. And then you can
Uh-huh.
adjust it. You don't need to get a size because you can
Mhm.
adjust it after you've got it on your hands. So then you've got the rubber on the bottom.
Hmm.
That work, that I've tried them all, and these are the only ones I like.
But then you still have access to your fingers if you have to rethread or check a bobbin or something.
Exactly. I don't have to keep taking them off and putting them on and dropping them
Yes.
on the floor.
So Alice,
That's
what are
really
those
cool.
called?
They're Steady Betty. Let me show you the package. When my aunt died, I inherited another pair. They're Betty bands is what they're called. By the Steady Betty company that makes those ironing boards, the portable.
Yes, yes. So I will mention that to Alice, or not Alice, to Margaret for sure. And I suspect if they're still being manufactured, we can probably get some of those. I would like to play with them. I think that's a great idea.
I like them. I don't know if people are used to gloves, they may not like them, but I like them because I don't like taking the gloves on and off.
And I like having
haven't used-
options, right?
Yeah, I haven't used anything other than my hands, so I have terrible time with the spray basting also, getting it to hold. I get more
Yeah.
puckers with that with anything else.
Well, you clearly are familiar with the basting on this BISR, so I suspect that you'll be doing more of that, don't you think,
Yes.
Maxine?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. So tell me quickly, ladies, what do you think about BISR 2?
That's the one I use. Yes.
Best one. Yeah. I think that tends to be the favorite.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's play a little bit with zigzag just because we can. So in your screen, in your BISR screen, just touch that zigzag. You'll notice, I don't think I have the right foot on for it. You can adjust the width of your zigzag depending on which quilting foot you're using. You could make a really wide zigzag. You could make a wide and short zigzag that looks a little bit like a satin stitch. I would like you to play a little bit, do some stitching, and then depending on what foot you have, go ahead and adjust your length and or your width. This is always kind of fun. It can look a little bit like a calligraphy stitch, as you know, if you were making letters in cursive and they get a little fatter at this point or a little more narrow at this point. This is a beautiful way to do some fun thread painting. And I think this is another one of those where people go, oh my goodness, I have so many ideas now. I had no idea I could do that. I have to switch feet because it does not like that foot. So while you're playing with zigzag, ladies, just think for a minute about what has been the biggest surprise or most exciting feature on your 990 that you use all the time, or maybe you just found it and you think, oh, I'm so glad I have this. I didn't know I had this. Just think about that for a minute and let me know what pops into your head.
For me, it's the bobbin system from the 880. The change.
Yes, it is very different, isn't it, Maxine? Do you find yourself sitting waiting for that bobbin presenter to do its thing?
No, I don't, but just
Oh,
getting it threaded on the 880. When I had the 880 for service, the technician said that is the most difficult machine and they're all hard, but he says this one is the worst.
Oh no. Oh,
And that was, I knew the 990 was coming out and I thought, oh, that's a lot of money for just the bobbin. But let me tell you, it's worth it.
it is worth it because it definitely is more than just the bobbin, but it's kind of that sweet spot between an easy to use bobbin system, the beautiful jumbo bobbin system, and then all the other amazing features that are on the 990.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the laser also is another point that I really enjoy.
Yes.
I like to be able to quilt in the hoop and it gives you words. I have a long way to go to be proficient, but it's made it easier for me to quilt in the hoop with the.
I love hearing
Yeah.
that, Donna. I
Denise,
haven't done any quilting in the hoop, but it's on my list.
Denise, quick question on the
Yes,
zigzag.
ma'am.
I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to think of, I wouldn't use that for a satin stitch because it wouldn't give me as steady and even a stitch. So what would you, with the BSR, what would you use the zigzag for?
So just really some decorative kind of think art quilt kind of thread painting. It would be a great way to lay down some thread if you just really wanted the texture of the thread to show. You know, maybe you're doing a landscape kind of a thing and you want to think about a tree. You could give the tree some texture with the thread that way.
Okay.
It's a little out of the box from what we typically think of as quilting using that zigzag.
Yeah, okay.
I'm like you, I probably would not use a zigzag very often.
I like
Sure.
it. It's kind of fun.
It is fun, isn't it? And to me, it's like this little hidden gem that I would have never thought to even play with a zigzag in that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey Denise, this is Alice L. Could you show me your sample of that zigzag? I'm obviously not in front of my machine today.
You know what? I was switching to a ruler foot, but I will happily do that, Alice. I'm going to put on the number 15 foot. It's one of those first ones that we looked at that is kind of that oblong shape. My hand keeps getting in the way. So let's see. Let's go back here, zigzag, change my foot. 15, yes, please. And bring that bobbin thread up. Kickstart on. And now I'm going to adjust some of those settings. Let's go a little wider. And it's only going to let me go to 5.5 because remember, that's the stitch plate that we have on. If you really wanted to play with this, you could use your external BSR and use your 9mm stitch plate. You could really get some width to that zigzag. Let's change the length of it a little bit. Let's make it a little closer. I feel like you're at the eye doctor. Number 1 or number 2? Okay. Let's see. You guys can't see that real well. So let's pull that out of here. See if I can give you a better view of it without me getting in the way. That's not very helpful, is it?
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Does that help a little bit?
yeah.
See how to me
I
it
see
almost looks like a little Y happening here.
That's cool. That's different than what I thought it would be.
So that's your calligraphy. I mean, your thick and your thin letters.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, Mary. Yes.
But
Okay.
you
And
made,
I think
you created the
there's
thick.
so many things you could do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And picture it in variegated thread,
Right.
Ah,
even thicker thread or, 80 weight thread, and then you shorten that length so the zigs and the zags were closer together, and that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Any questions on the zigzag, ladies?
No,
I
but
love the good.
it's good you showed it to us.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
That we had no
Is-
idea.
Is it normal to increase your thread tension? I had to increase it to 9 before I saw that, before this top thread stopped showing up on the back and making those funny ladder stitches. Do you know what I'm
Okay,
talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I would say no, that is not normal. I would double check and I would rethread because that's always the first thing I do when something doesn't look quite right. That I have some notes on the bottom of your the last page of your handout, and that sounds like a tension issue for sure.
Right.
Needle tension, TNT, those are the things I always go to for any of those. Double check your thread. I would cut it, I would pull it, forward through the front of the machine, rethread it again, needle all the way in the most upright position, foot up.
Right.
I would pull my bobbin thread out and make sure that's in good shape. And then I might even change my needle and try again. If you're still having issues, I would say definitely give us a call and let's see what it is, because you shouldn't have to change it that much. You really shouldn't have to change it much at all.
Mhm.
So something is off.
Okay.
One of the other notes that I have on that last page is for skip stitches. And again, those adjustable feet are great for that. If your foot is too high, you're probably going to get those skip stitches, and you can adjust those feet either with the dial on the ones that are adjustable or by changing the pressure of your presser foot. If that doesn't work, then I would do the TNT, which is not dynamite for blowing up your machine, but the thread, needle, and tension. And I'm sure you all know, to help prevent those awful thread nests, you guys are well-seasoned Bernina ladies, so you know to hang on to those thread tails for the first couple stitches, and that will save you a lot of headache down the road. So what questions did you have coming into today that I have not answered? I'm sure there must be something.
Well, thanks for the clarity about the internal BSR and the external. That was very useful.
Yes, yes, I think that was a fair question, right? Why do we have both, and why would you use one over the other? One thing that we didn't talk about that I talk a little bit about when I teach the BSR class here in the shop is Bernina used to teach calibrating the BSR to the way that you sew. And we measure stitch length and we look at how fast you're sewing. They don't really teach that anymore, and they haven't said why. So I speculate that because every time we sit down to stitch, we're different than we were the last time. Maybe you didn't sleep well, so maybe you're moving a little more slowly today. Or maybe conversely, you had 3 extra cups of coffee and you are on a roll. So you would have to tweak it every time. But I find with the integrated stitch regulator, I don't need to change anything. It's good to go when I sit down at my machine and I'm ready to go. You are welcome to make those changes to stitch length and speed and all of those things, and then even save them in your favorites folder. But I'm not sure that, I don't know, I don't know that you may need to. You may find the same as I do, is that it's just ready to go when you're ready. Any other thoughts, ladies?
What about ruler work? You were saying something about that?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I wanted to do a little demo of ruler work. My guess is not everybody has rulers or has done ruler work. I do like a good ruler. I am a big fan of Amanda Murphy. Anything that she puts out, I'm like, ooh, do I need that? Yes, I probably do. So I will do a little demo here of ruler work. And again, this really is one of the really special things about having the stitch regulator built in. I don't have to add anything else. I can just use the same ruler work foot that I use on my long arm, I can use on my 990. And if I can get the thread to participate here, there we go. Let me go back in. Let's change some things here. My foot, yes, please. 72. Ladies that are in the neighborhood here, we do a couple different versions of a ruler work class. We do a domestic version. We do, just straight lines. We do circles and ovals. And Mary, are you showing off ruler pieces over there? What was that?
No.
Can I see a ruler? No. It is so much fun. Let's see. Get this thread up. Close out of there. Bobbin thread to the top. So with the ruler, I'm going to try to show you here since my camera's not cooperating. The idea is that it slides right along this nice tall ruler foot. And the reason it's tall is to help prevent the ruler from sliding under the foot. which really would be the worst of all possible cases. You're in the very least going to break your needle, which could come flying, who knows in what direction. You could potentially break your ruler, and worst of all, you might hurt your machine. So we don't want to do that. We want to do things right. So anytime you're doing ruler work, the cardinal rule is your foot comes down where it belongs, and then you move the ruler over to it. So that's what we're going to do here. And I'm going to use my kickstart because I love the kickstart. Adjust and go. This is great for stitching the ditch. This is great for backup line building. You can do some amazing straight line designs. You can come play with me and I can show you how to do some of those. Star 2, again, because the needle stops when I stop moving. Okay, see if I can show you what that looks like. Let's see, needle up, foot up. Scissors handy.
Mhm. Nice.
Can you see that little bit without that glare on there?
Mhm.
So again, it's a little bit like patting your head and rubbing your tummy, but especially using the kickstart, you know, that takes away one element of that and you can just focus on moving the ruler. But it is so, it's silly how easy it is with the stitch regulator already built into the machine. Wise choice, ladies, you chose well. Any other questions for me, friends?
Oh, thanks, Denise. That was really good.
You are very welcome. If you do come up with questions, and I find that often happens afterwards, you think, oh, I should have asked, da, 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 da. You are welcome to, of course, pop in the shop and give us a call, shoot an email to us, whatever's easiest. And my thought is if you have a question, somebody else is probably wondering the same thing. So please be sure to share those. Next month, we're going to talk a little bit about decorative stitches. And Cheryl and I are going to lead that discussion. If you have any questions right off the top of your head, shoot us an email on those too, and we'll be sure to include those in our presentation for you.
Are you
So if
gonna
there's anything
include-
else,
Are you going to include jumbo stitches in that?
well, why not?
Okay,
That's part of, you know, the awesomeness of the 990, right?
yes, yes.
Yes, yes, for sure. Yes. So I look forward to next month, ladies. Please let me know how we can help you in the future.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Denise.
I really
Thanks,
enjoyed it.
Denise.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, you
Thanks.
too.
You too.
Bye.
too.